Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in our session, Unlocking Accounts Payable Efficiency with SAP. My name is Charissa Sage, and I'm a Principal Client Success Manager with SAP Concur. I'm joined today by two fantastic colleagues. We have Bobby Hodges, Senior Product Marketing Manager at SAP Concur, and Orlando Cruz Solano, Solution Advisor at SAP Finance and Spend Management. Today we're going to explore how SAP's AP solutions help organizations streamline invoice management, improve visibility, and deliver the right blend of control and automation, whether your AP programs are more centralized and complex, or perhaps more lightweight and more distributed. Before we dive in, I just want to anchor us in one key point. AP efficiency is not a one-size-fits-all. Every organization is different. You have a unique mix of systems, you have your own processes, you have your challenges. And today's session is designed to help you understand where your program fits, what core needs do you have, what challenges, and which SAP solutions best align with your company's needs. So with that, let's jump into our agenda. So we're going to start off by taking a look at current trends in accounts payable, those pressures that your teams are feeling, the challenges, and what opportunities come with modernizing AP. Then we'll move on to smarter accounts payables management with SAP, where we'll break down the different AP solutions in the SAP landscape and how they support the different levels of complexity that your company might have. And finally, we'll wrap up with a few next steps and key takeaways. So with that, let's jump into accounts payables trends. So there has been a big shift when it comes to AI capture automation. Over the last 2 years, AI adoption has really exploded in AP. Research showed that 3/4 of AP teams were already using AI by the end of 2024. And now in 2026, well, let's just say it's not a trend, it's basically the norm. It has become the backbone of how invoices get entered into the system, how it's understood, and how it moves through the workflow. You can really feel that shift in the invoice intake process. It's becoming less picky and more helpful. There are fewer hard stops over minor errors, less typing, and less repetitive tasks. So the big win here is really simple. Less rework, cleaner data, and faster flow right from the start. Then we move on to trend number 2, around automatic coding and workflow. This is where automation starts to feel more like a partner rather than a rule book. It's learning patterns, it's smarter, it's routing work smarter, and it's flagging what it looks odd or what needs more human attention. And by strengthening your workflow and reducing those manual touches, it's really improving audits and reducing those non-compliance as well as lowering fraud exposure. That's the new AP experience. It has fewer surprises, fewer bottlenecks, and more control baked right from the start. Then we move on to our third trend, which is around payments and finance control. With interest rates staying elevated, timing is everything. When your money leaves matters as much as how much of it leaves. So leaders are now really looking closely at discount capture, payment timing, cash flow, forecasting, and supplier reliability. Modern AP is shifting more towards predictable and more strategic payment behavior that supports the entire business. So now that we've looked at the trends, let's zoom out and see how these forces really look at in the real world. A lot of the teams that we see today are somewhere between manual and modern. We sometimes call it as paper era that's dressed in digital. Why? Because your invoices might be coming in as PDFs and not paper or envelope, but the process behind it still feels very manual. And so with manual problems such as typing fields, chasing emails, and still wondering where those invoices are, there comes manual problems too, where you get exceptions, delays, late fees, and compliance issues. The good news, though, is that that's not where AP is staying. Modern AP is shifting more towards something more dynamic and more predictable. They're shifting towards automated capture and validation, intelligent coding and routing, built-in compliance guardrails, real-time visibility into spend and liabilities, and stronger supplier relationships that's backed by dependable payment behavior. It's a move away from reacting and really more towards anticipating that volume, anticipating exceptions, anticipating the cash flow needs before they become pain points. So why do we see this shift? It's because leadership has realized that manual AP does not scale. And so, especially in a world where teams are much leaner and the expectations are a whole lot higher. So manual processes create bottlenecks. We all know that. Exceptions and rework chew up capacity. And finance leaders now expect AP to play a real role in cost control, fraud prevention, and working capital optimization. So a lot of the organizations are now asking the simple question: how do I free up time for my teams so that they are free from mechanics and more concentrated around outcomes? So a lot of this shift that we're seeing, it's really not about replacing people, it's about elevating them. So we're almost to the second part of our discussion here, but before we move on to that, I want to ground us again with that key concept or key idea that I mentioned at the start. Every AP program looks different. You have different systems, different workflows, different levels of automation. So the questions that you're seeing right now is really here to help you think about your program. Think about how many invoices do you handle each month? Is your procurement connected to your ERP or a separate system? Or what type of spend is your AP team typically processing? There are no right or wrong answers here. The goal is really to help you see where your gaps and needs would be, because those needs directly influence which SAP solution will be a best fit. So with that, I will hand you over to my colleagues to talk to you about different SAP offerings and how each one supports different levels of complexity. So Bobby in Orlando?
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. All right, so I'm going to jump in to Concur Invoice, core solutions, and of course those benefits, and touch on those extended solutions here. As Teresa said, invoice or AP automation, right? It's not one size fits all. Every organization is different. They want different tasks performed automatically. Some organizations want to keep those a little more manual, have a little more validation. What they're all trying to do and striving to complete is to become more efficient, more strategic, and as Teresa said, reduce those bottlenecks. So between initiating that purchase request and payments and analyzing spend through AP, that is where Concur Invoice excels. This is the area where we're going to reduce bottlenecks. We're going to implement workflows and strategic changes to speed up your organization. But this is also where you're going to eliminate those manual tasks. One piece here that I find is one of the most beneficial is capturing those invoices, automating the ingestion of either PDFs or manually uploading a paper invoice and scanning those through the system, or utilizing something like our email, automatic email upload, where your suppliers simply email those invoices over. additional tools like matching those POs with receipts and purchase orders, as well as our auto payment solution that allows you to not just automatically pay the invoices that Concur Invoice has already processed, but actually schedule and batch those invoices out. Next, I want to dive in to those extended solutions here at Concur that allow you to extend the scalability and remove those bottlenecks that you're looking to remove. With Concur Invoice, we have 4 main categories of extended services here. First one I'm going to talk about is invoice capture and line item capture. This is that intelligent solution that's going to allow you to no longer waste time uploading manual invoices. You're no longer going to have to stay late scanning and uploading documents while missing your kid's soccer game, football game, or maybe it's just dinner with some family. You're going to be able to automatically ingest those invoices, capture them, and process them through Concur Invoice. Next is purchase request. This one I maybe should have hit first, but purchase request is going to be that initial request for making that purchase you want to make. It's asking for permission instead of forgiveness. Next is 3-item match, or 3-way match. 3-way match is going to automatically match those invoices with purchase orders and receipts, as well as flag those exceptions and discrepancies. And last but not least is Invoice Payment Manager. Invoice Payment Manager will take your payments processing to the next level. What we'll do here is allow you to transact in ACH or check, as well as virtual card. You'll be able to schedule payments, automate those, and even batch pay your invoices through Invoice Payment Manager. And all of this is a suite of AP solutions that is sold by SAP Concur. With this, I want to take us to our next slide. I'm going to pass it off to Orlando.
Thanks, Bobby. So everything that Bobby just now spoke with you about AP invoice processing, all those processes, we handle that within our SAP Ariba solution. From when the invoice comes in and gets ingested via AI, through that invoice exception processing, through the workflows, and looking for invoice exception management, like the price is wrong or the quantity is wrong. So we start from there. But for the companies that are ready to grow and wanting and needing more out of that, we also offer the ability to offer a catalog where you have pictures, prices, descriptions. Anybody that knows how to shop on Amazon or Nordstrom's.com knows how to use this, so they don't need training. And the whole point of this is to offer users the ability to buy something, to ask for permission for buying, instead of asking for forgiveness for having bought, which I stole from Bobby, but he stole that from me originally, so I just want to use that. But the point here is that this process here is putting up front to have that catalog buying. What we also hear about Concur customers is, how do I manage my suppliers? Right now I'm just adding them to my backend system, but you want processes to go and have those suppliers go through questionnaires, to have those questionnaires get workflow to the right people, to then go and approve that supplier to work with them, as well as in a year when they have to update their insurance docs or update their code of conduct. That happens automatically, so you don't have to worry about managing those suppliers. The system does it for you. It automates the process. And that's the whole point of our solution from that next step. But what can we do from there? You have all your invoice spend. So what we can do is we can cut and slice and dice that invoice. So what we're doing is we're looking at spend analysis. We're looking at what you're buying, where you're buying it from, what your prices are. From that, you're able to leverage that and look at those different categories that you're buying from suppliers. So when you have that vision or that visual of what am I buying and who am I buying it from, then you can take it to the next step of Now I want to go and start to look at how I can get better pricing for my company, how I can reach that, maximize that bottom line in terms of perfect price from the best supplier to then go through and leverage that throughout your company. And all of you already have contracts. It's just that where are they? Are they on SharePoint? Are they on somebody's folder? What we have is the ability to put that contract into the system and leverage that contract to go through and look at notifications of expiring contracts, or to go through and have notifications when there's no more money left in the kitty. And the way that works is from that contract, it pushes over to the next piece of going through and buying. So when you're buying from the catalog, the prices in that contract push over to that catalog. So now you have that contract compliance where if you have rates or if you have materials, you're able to see those prices and they're able to map to it. So if somebody, it's in HVAC, for example, if they're charging you $200 an hour, they can't charge you $300 an hour because the system protects you around that. So that's the basis for how you would work within your solution. But now let's take it a step further. What we're talking about now is that SAP Business Network. And from the SAP Business Network, we're the largest business network. We're bigger than eBay, Alibaba, and Amazon combined. We're in 190 different countries. So if invoicing is an issue for you, not just in the US, but in other countries, we have global invoicing policies to help manage that process. But the key piece here is from this solution, you're able to collaborate with your suppliers on sourcing, on supplier management, because they have their own access point. It's one network for all your suppliers. Chances are your suppliers are already using SAP Business Network with their customers. And how that works next is going back and bring it back over to the AP side of things. What happens is, suppose a supplier submits an invoice. If they submit the invoice to the SAP Business Network, it creates all the real rules around there. So they can't have bad invoices come into the system. If there's a price exception, if there's a quantity exception, what happens is it looks at that invoice. Is it a duplicate invoice number? Does it have the right PO number on there? Is there a PO number or is it non-PO? It doesn't matter. But what happens is it keeps track of those rules and looks at the mathematical errors. If there's a problem with that invoice, it goes back to the supplier and says, oh, you can't submit this invoice until you fix the problem. Once they fix that problem, then it comes back over to you as a clean invoice. That means there's less work on your AP department to go through and process that invoice. That means a supplier who already knows how, because chances are they're working with 13 other customers on average through the SAP Business Network. So I just wanted to bring those points here in terms of when you're ready to take that next step. It's modularized. You can start with catalogs, or you can go with supplier management. Each one of these pieces works separately, but it works in conjunction to then push over to your back-end system for payment. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Bobby. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Thanks, Orlando.
Sure.
All right. So Orlando brought up some great points, and this slide has some great information on it. And I want to just pull a couple of these facts out. And I think it's important when you're looking to choose, which AP solution you're looking for. There are a couple guardrails that we have here. From a high level, if you're looking for a solution to manage, let's say, 100,000 invoices or more, typically that is where the line in the sand is drawn, and most customers typically go to something like SAP Ariba. Someone who's transacting something like 20,000 invoices or less per month, that is where SAP Concur would excel best. Now, if you're looking for, let's say, 40 more lines or more on your invoice, those are line items within your invoice. Again, that's going to be somewhere where SAP Ariba. Now, you might be a supplier that, or a buyer where you're running multiple AP solutions, and that's okay. Some people do that. If you run, let's say, 50% of your invoices where they're under 40 lines, and then you got 50% over, that might be a place where you can actually run both, a hybrid solution. So these solutions are built for you. As Orlando said, you can add and subtract as many of these modules as you'd like to make them a good fit. This slide here, which we'll have access to later, will be a good guide and a good place to look if you're trying to decide which solution's which. And if you're still unsure, we always have SAP resources to help you out. All right. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a clear roadmap for moving your AP forward. Start by assessing where you are today, your invoice volume, your complexity, and the workflows your team is managing. From there, you're going to want to identify the SAP solution that best fits your needs, whether that's Concur Invoice, SAP Ariba, or a hybrid approach like we discussed. Next, you'll want to consider extending your automation into payments. Fully integrated invoice-to-pay processing is one of the fastest ways to strengthen controls, reduce risk, and create a seamless experience for both your team and your suppliers. And finally, stay connected. Like I said, your SAP team are great resources if you want to dive deeper. We have things like demos, and if you just want to map out what modernizing could look like for your organization, feel free to chat with us. We're always here to help you. Thanks so much for joining, everyone.
Thank you.